Welcome to Watch the Bookerman and to the second last episode before Slammiversary 10 and therefore the second last episode of Impact Wrestling in this series. We've got a huge show for tonight because in the build up to Slammiversary I think every single show has to be full of big moments because we want that pay-per-view to feel like the biggest show that we've ever done. We've got Jay Lethal versus Kurt Angle in our main event, as well as the third of those King of the Mountain qualifier matches. We've also got an appearance from Sting, which was promoted last week, as well as Jeff Hardy calling out Brock Lesnar, so plenty to look forward to, and I think this is a really good show that we've got, so I'm going to go straight into that right now. And we begin in pretty impressive fashion as Sting makes his return to the company. We haven't seen him since lockdown, and he talks about him being here for Slammiversary season. He says that there's a hell of a lot going on in the company right now. He talks about the return of his friend Jeff Hardy and a guy who he has more respect for than anybody in this business, Kurt Angle, and they've got a hell of a lot on their plate at the minute. Sting himself knows all about the guy that Kurt Angle is dealing with, while Brock Lesnar is a little bit of a stranger to Sting, but he puts it out there. He's sure that they're going to cross paths eventually. It's just a shame that that may not be tonight. His focus tonight is on something else because Impact Wrestling have asked him to make a big announcement for the 10th anniversary show. He's somebody who goes way back in this company, and while the last few years have seen him come and go when the time calls for it, he's always here and he's always watching. Like those things that he said earlier, and like everything else that's going on in this company, he knows that there has never been a better time to be a part of Impact Wrestling, whether that's TNA or whether it's the name that it has right now. When he debuted at the first anniversary show, he formed a lifelong bond with this company. But of course, the year before was the first ever show in this company's history. On that night, a gauntlet for the gold took place where we crowned an NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and he's here to announce the return of that match at Slammiversary 10. However, the winner isn't going to be taking home one of the most prestigious championships in the world, but instead a shot at the most important title in professional wrestling today. So whoever wins that 20-man battle royal will be the number one contender after Slammiversary, whether that's Brock Lesnar, whether that's Jeff Hardy. Sting is sure that that match is going to be full of stars and shocks and surprises, but he wants to first call out a man who's been here from day one and a man he feels has to claim his shot in that match. He wants AJ Styles to come out. AJ, of course, comes out. He has a lot of respect for Sting, and while he looks a little bit downbeat as he has been in the last few weeks, looking directionless and not knowing his path to Slammiversary, he is given a pep talk by Sting. He puts over the history and the accomplishments. Nobody means more to the history of this company than AJ Styles, and while this may not have been the path he envisioned for the 10th anniversary, this is the perfect way to write a new chapter in the history books of Impact Wrestling. He can make his mark on that show in the opening match by securing himself a future World Championship shot. Sting then extends his hand. He wants AJ to accept a place in the match. AJ comes back to Sting, putting over the respect that he has for him, how much that he has done for this company. Also, Impact Wrestling would not be where it is without Sting. He may not have had the best 2012, but the gauntlet for the gold sounds like the perfect way for him to turn around his fortunes. AJ shakes hands with Sting, who brings the Phenomenal One in close and says, "I'll see you at Slammiversary, kid." So there's an implication there that Sting too will be in this gauntlet for the gold. So Sting not just there for the announcement, but he will be a part of Slammiversary, and I don't think you can have a 10-year anniversary show of TNA or Impact Wrestling as we are now without one, AJ Styles being in a prominent position, and two, Sting playing a very big part. Of course, plenty of time for other moving parts to be confirmed, but that's how we start a very important episode of Impact Wrestling, and we follow up with the commentators putting over that huge announcement and the fact that tonight Kurt Angle will face Jay Lethal in our main event. However, Kurt Angle has been very busy this week, as we see footage from earlier this week where he was on his travels. He landed in the airport in Chicago and was followed by Impact Wrestling cameras as he explained why he was in the Windy City. He's there to pay a house visit to a certain AWOL member of the Impact Wrestling roster. Kurt Angle then steps into his rental car. He is ready to travel to the house of CM Punk, a man who we haven't seen on the show in many weeks now, and Kurt Angle is basically taking the show to him if Punk isn't going to come to work. We then go into the match of Hamada's hand-picked opponent for Mickie James, and we want to put over that Kana is a highly accomplished wrestler in Japan, and the storyline has sort of become a little bit of an undercurrent where Hamada is saying that Japanese women's wrestlers are so much better than the Knockouts division or the American women's wrestlers, but Mickie James proves that she is capable of competing with anybody, overcoming Kana, who absolutely dominates much of the match, preying on the injuries that Mickie James has been carrying, and it looks at one point like Mickie is going to be unable to defeat this challenge. However, she does eventually manage to do so with a Mickie DT. I've seen too many clips of Mickie hitting the mitt kick badly, so we're sticking with the DDT for her victory, and it is a huge win for Mickie James, and I think it's a decent match despite the fact that we had subpar wrestling and non-existent crowd heat for it. Mickie with a 58 isn't that good. We hope that she can perform better if she is on the Slammiversary card, having picked up that win despite being dominated, as we said, for large parts of the match by Hamada's hand-picked opponent. Mickie James takes a microphone from ringside and she is fired up after we saw basically she snapped towards the end of that match. We saw a more brutal, vicious side to her as she had to dig deeper than she ever has to overcome Kana, who, while being a stranger to our fans, the commentators do try and put over her as a very accomplished wrestler overseas. Mickie asks if that's what Hamada wanted. She traces back all her troubles to Hamada beating her down in an unprovoked attack months and months ago. She sent Mickie James's year off the rails, and she wants to know, has she proved herself to Hamada now, or maybe she needs to keep beating down her opponent after the match like Hamada would. Mickie says that she wouldn't drag herself to Hamada's level, so instead she is calling her out. Mickie has one of the best win-loss records in this company in 2012, despite everything that she has been put through, and she wants an answer once and for all to her Slammiversary challenge. So we are trying to put back the idea that while Mickie James' storyline is that she's very much struggled, it's not that she's getting a title shot having been on the losing end of most of her matches. She has a 9-6 record this year, so she is still very much one of the highest ranked members of the division. Hamada comes out to the top of the ramp, and the usually emotionless Knockouts champion looks pretty smug. Hamada says that she accepts Mickie's challenge. However, Mickie must face one more trial next week. Mickie James is happy for it. Whoever it is, she will fight them. Hamada reveals that she will have to face the monstrous Aja Kong just 3 nights before Slammiversary. And while Mickie knows just how good Aja Kong is, she is up for that challenge. A video package is then introduced showing Jeff Hardy's return to Impact Wrestling last week, moments before Paul Heyman had looked set to try and make management vacate the Impact World Championship. Jeff Hardy not only appeared and confirmed his Slammiversary availability, but he called out Brock Lesnar to appear face-to-face inside the 6-sided ring. Jeff Hardy, the Impact World Champion, is going to call out his challenger later tonight. Jeremy Borash then interviews Jay Lethal to promote the main event match between him and Kurt Angle. Jay Lethal says that he was as surprised as anybody to hear what Maria had done last week, but thanks her for making sure he got the chance to step in the ring with an angry, frustrated and bloodthirsty Kurt Angle. So we're putting across that Jay isn't really that happy about this, but he's going about it in a rather passive-aggressive way. He then turns talk to the Gauntlet for the Gold announced earlier tonight. He sees that as his path to the Impact World Championship, but Maria says that's not exactly what they talked about. Maria says that talks are still ongoing for what match Jay Lethal will be in at Slammiversary, and she's setting her sights on a marquee singles match for Jay. Jay's not really sure about this. It seems like Maria's trying to control his career, but he's certainly not willing to argue with his wife, and he shrugs and unconvincingly says that he is so excited for tonight's main event. We then get the third and final King of the Mountain qualifier match, and as you'd expect from this match, it is rather chaotic. First thing to know is very early on in the match, the American Wolves return the favour on the Kings of Wrestling from a few weeks ago and take them out. They brawl away from the ring. Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards laying into Chris Hero and Claudio Castagnoli, and we don't see them again for the remainder of the match. We're then left with Colt Cabana, El Generico, the Briscoes, and the Young Bucks as the three teams, and Colt Cabana is set up in a Briscoe device. However, El Generico flies in and takes Jay Briscoe out. Cabana can then escape and gets a shocking roll-up pinfall over Mark Briscoe. And while he's very much the weak link in a high spots rated match, I'm required to have a high spots rated match on every show, so that's why he's rated on his high spots. Colt Cabana and El Generico are going to Slammiversary, three well-established teams, not happy at all with that result, of course, and the commentators are putting over just how surprising it is to see Colt Cabana and El Generico have been in a really bad situation over the last few months. They have picked up the shock win. They will join Motor City Machine Guns, Kevin Steen and Paul London in challenging for the Impact World Tag Team Championships at Slammiversary against Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe, the King of the Mountain ladder match. Furious with the defeat and having not been involved in the fall, the Young Bucks come back to the ring and jump the victors. They're bitter about not being able to join their stablemates on the Slammiversary card. Returning to the ring, the Briscoes themselves aren't happy and take out their frustrations on the Young Bucks before sending them to the outside. The Briscoes then pick Colt Cabana up and hit him with the Briscoe device, so it is only moments of celebration for Colt Cabana and El Generico before they are brought back down to earth. They storm off up the ramp, the Briscoes in a heated discussion about how things managed to go as badly as they did, but El Generico checks on Colt Cabana, who is in severe pain after the double post-match attack. Now El Generico, who wasn't even willing to fight in this match just a couple of weeks ago, now on the Slammiversary card with Colt Cabana, who has not been positioned as a very serious wrestler throughout his run with the company, and that's why hopefully it's a huge shock and a huge upset, but he is the one taking the brunt of the Briscoes, unfortunately for him. We then return to earlier this week, where Kurt Angle is shown driving down a highway and discussing the reasons why he has to visit CM Punk. Kurt says that he's been collecting his thoughts all week about what he's going to say to Punk, but now he's just minutes away and he's not sure what's going to come out of his mouth when he confronts that man. Kurt Angle says that a lot of people have told him to leave it, to accept that CM Punk has done what he's done and he's gone home. Impact Wrestling may be better off without CM Punk, but Kurt can't let this go. For the past 12 months, CM Punk has had his own way. He has outnumbered, he has bullied, and he has taken his frustrations out on anybody who has crossed his path. Kurt Angle spent 6 months out of the ring because of actions performed in the name of CM Punk and his crusade against TNA. He spent 4 months being tormented and tortured by Punk and his sidekick Samoa Joe. He cannot let this go. Punk got everything he wanted, but when the going got tough, he took his ball and he went home, leaving CM Punk to do exactly that while sitting home and collecting a pay packet from this company. He cannot let that happen. Actions have consequences, and eventually they come knocking at your door. So furthering the hype and promotion for later in the night, as Awesome Kong then defeats April Hunter in 1 minute and 44 with an implant buster. A great performance from Awesome Kong, a dominant victory from her. Gail Kim joins commentary to put over her Slammiversary opponent throughout the match, just how violent, just how dangerous she is, and that's exactly why Gail Kim has to face her at Slammiversary. Awesome Kong turns her attention to Gail Kim, who is sat at the commentary position after the match. Kong is ready for another round of action with Gail. That's exactly what she's expecting, but the former Knockouts champion stands up at the desk. She tells the commentators that with the monsters focus solely on her, she is willing to wait to Slammiversary to get her hands on Awesome Kong, and it's going to be an absolutely huge Knockouts match, the first time that Awesome Kong and Gail Kim have faced since Gail returned to the company. We then return to the second hour of the show with the commentators introducing footage from Jim Cornette's training ring earlier this week. He called Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin to visit him because he had something he needed to say to them. Charlie Haas is already in the ring speaking with Jim Cornette when Shelton Benjamin enters the room looking ready for a fight. Cornette says that he wants no physicality here tonight and says that if Shelton has any respect left for his former mentor, he'll keep this to just words. We see that Jim Cornette does have some kind of power. It's not quite power, but there is that. You see it quite often with like boxers and their trainers. People who have brought other people through in the business command that respect, and despite all the personal animosity, Shelton is willing to listen to his mentor. Jim says that he isn't here to let these guys tear each other apart, because he has something very important to say to them. We want Cornette to come across very, very sincere here, and in saying that everything he has seen from Charlie in the past few months, he's so proud of the man and the competitor that he has become. There is nobody faster mentally and physically, tougher or more dedicated to this business than him. He thinks that Charlie Haas is a gift to this business, and he couldn't be more happy to have played some part in Haas becoming the wrestler he has become. However, every word that he has to say to Charlie right now, he can say the same to Shelton Benjamin. This has never been about taking sides and fueling the fire of this rivalry. Jim just wants to see the very best from these two men, and that's why he won't be in a corner at Slammiversary. He won't be managing Charlie Haas in the Impact X Division Championship match. He's just going to be there to sit on commentary and watch two of the best wrestlers in the world fight it out. Haas looks pretty annoyed by this, seemingly expected Jim to be on his side. Cornette says that he just wants to see them put the fight of their life on because he knows that the two of them are wrestling's greatest. Jim Cornette then left the ring and offered some private words of encouragement to Shelton Benjamin. Obviously, he's spent a lot of time with Charlie Haas in recent months, but he also seems to have a strong connection with Shelton Benjamin. We then get a stare down from across the room between Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, and when we return to the commentary position, we're told that that's not all that went down. That might have been what Jim Cornette wanted to happen, but there was definitely a follow-up to that, and we will see exactly what went down in Jim Cornette's sort of training gym. We're kind of putting him over as this old school promoter, so he has his own training gym, and, well, something else went down backstage. We then return live as the commentators put over another ongoing incident. It is absolute chaos tonight. Security are struggling to keep the Kings of Wrestling, who were screwed by the Wolves earlier, and Tyler Black away from Austin Aries and the Wolves. Both sides of the New Age absolutely at each other's throats as usual. Austin Aries and the Wolves not really looking to get to the Kings and Tyler Black physically. Instead, they're just throwing barbs over the horde of security, telling them that turnabout is fair play. And what did they expect tonight, basically? The Kings screwed the Wolves. It was going to happen the other way. The New Age Originals have just reached their breaking point, though. They are beyond the tit for tat and eventually stop the struggle. They put their hands up. They're not going to try and fight their way through security. Instead, they want to lay down a challenge. Tyler Black has had enough of all of this bullshit. The company isn't big enough for these two teams. In fact, it never has been, and that's why he's hated Austin Aries from the moment he walked into this company. They may have been forced together by the people in charge, but forget Steve Corino, forget Jimmy Jacobs, forget CM Punk, forget a steel cage, forget any rules. At Slammiversary 3-on-3, the only people in this rivalry who have ever mattered. No countouts, no DQ. They don't even need to keep this to a ring. He challenges the New Age of Honor to a Falls Count Anywhere match. Austin Aries elects to answer on behalf of the trio, telling the Wolves that he's got this. He says that the best time he had in this company was last month when these three guys weren't around, so he agrees wholeheartedly. This company isn't big enough for the two of them. So how about it? At Slammiversary, that 3v3 goes down with the losing team disbanding. The two sides continue to shout at each other. Tyler Black not doing very well, but it's still a solid segment overall. And we do finally get no excuses, just a Falls Count Anywhere match. A straight up brawl between these six men will take place at Slammiversary, and for everything we've done in the 2.5 years, these six guys to me are the absolute signpost of what we've wanted to achieve, and them hopefully putting on a very, very good match at Slammiversary would be the perfect crowning moment on our last ever show of the series. We then get the entrance of Madison Rayne and Tara before Alyssa Flash faces Madison Rayne, and they put over their achievements as individuals. Madison saying they asked one of the nerds in the back to look through the history books to show just how great these two women are. Tara was the first woman to be both a Knockouts and Knockouts Tag Team Champion. With Slammiversary around the corner, Madison Rayne proved in 2010 that she is the true Queen of Wrestling, as she won the only Queen of the Mountain ladder match, and she remembers that Sarah Del Rey was in that match again. She's also the only woman to have pinned both Awesome Kong and Sarah Del Rey inside an Impact Wrestling ring. There is nobody else who can say that. So for all the talk that Madison Rayne and Tara aren't on the level of Flash and Del Rey. Well, she's proved that she is on the level of any knockout on the planet. And do we need to look any further than the legend that is Tara, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time? They're cut off by the Knockouts Tag Team Champions, who say they know just how good these women are. There might have been a lot of talk around this match, but the champions themselves have never looked down on Madison Rayne and Tara. They know that they are two of the most conniving, cheating, slimy bitches in this business. So they know they're going to have to be at their best when it comes to Slammiversary. However, the facts that matter right now are that Flash and Del Rey are the Knockouts Tag Team Champions, and just like how Sarah Del Rey has a 2-0 record against Tara, Alyssa has a 2-0 record against Madison Rayne. The funny thing is, next week it's going to be a 3-0 record because Sarah Del Rey is going to make Tara tap out just 3 nights before Slammiversary. So another match that we have confirmed for next week. But after using the knockout glove, bringing that glove back that she used sort of late last year or mid last year it may have been, Madison Rayne defeats Alyssa Flash in 7 minutes and 36. It's not a clean victory, but it is a victory and a little bit of momentum for the challengers going into that show. Sarah Del Rey checks on Flash in the ring. She's absolutely furious that Madison Rayne has gotten away with this. Tara causing the distraction, Madison knocking Alyssa Flash out. We then go into the promised follow-up from the incident earlier, as footage of Shelton Benjamin speaking with the Impact Wrestling cameras as he is looking to leave Jim Cornette's gym. He says that he will call out Haas for a face-to-face in the ring next week. There's been a lot of physicality between them, but there's not been any speaking, and if he's going to beat the crap out of Charlie Haas at Slammiversary, he at least wants to get a few things off his chest before he does so. Before he can leave the building, however, he is jumped by Charlie Haas and dragged back in, a brawl breaking out, and they were never going to leave without physicality. Jim Cornette himself must have even known that. They fight back towards the ring, fighting through it, a brawl, just trying to use as much as the environment as we can to try and create a bit of a unique situation. Of course, you get a lot of in-ring or backstage brawls, but since we're using a outside location here, trying to use the unique things, and we end up, as Shelton Benjamin is getting the better of the exchange, they both bust through the door of the gym, and Charlie grabs the first thing he can find, a weight plate, and drives it into the ribs of Shelton Benjamin. Now by now Jim Cornette is on the scene. He's heard the commotion and he's trying to find out what's going on, and he sees Shelton Benjamin on the ground coughing and in severe pain, putting over that this is obviously a very, very serious thing. A weight to the ribs is really, really, really going to hurt. Jim Cornette is out of his mind. We know he's shouting and yelling, red-faced, and he just can't believe what Haas has done. He's trying to stay neutral, but he just gives Haas an absolute bollocking for what he's done. You've gone too far. What the hell are you doing? This is my gym. We have a reputation. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. Haas eventually leaves as Jim is checking on Shelton. Charlie tells him he'll see him next week, and really good rating. I'm happy with that. We've not had much great ratings between these two, so thankfully that segment has gained heat to the storyline, and hopefully what we have planned next week will also do that as we go into what I think is going to be a fantastic X Division Championship match at the pay-per-view. Going from partners turned enemies to enemies turned partners, Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe are interviewed by Jeremy Borash. They put over all 3 teams who they will face next week. They might not like all of them, but Wolfe says that they've all earned their shot. If he'd have been putting money on all 3 qualifiers, well, he'd be broke by now, because let's be honest, the Kings, Bad Influence, Beer Money, the Briscoes, the American Wolves, all these teams you would more expect to be in a championship match, but actually it is 3 new fresh teams that we're trying to build up. And of course we've got the Motor City Machine Guns in there as well as an established team who just really work well in those high flying matches. Bryan Danielson says that above all else, what he sees in the 3 challengers is an unbreakable bond of friendship, even in Steen and London, who he can't stand the sight of. Whereas Bryan and Desmond Wolfe are about as good at being friends as Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin. It's just as well that they're absolutely incredible at being World Tag Team Champions. They continue to discuss the unique challenge of the King of the Mountain when they are confronted by the Briscoes. Jay says that they have been looking for the champs all night, so excuse them for the interruption. However, the champions must have seen what a fluke that victory for Cabana and El Generico was out there tonight, and they want something done about it. Bryan says it may be too late for them to be in the title match at Slammiversary, but how about they see them next week? They saw how they left Colt and Generico laying earlier in the night. So how about they face the champions? The Briscoes agree, and it is another huge match added to the Go Home show. We've got Aja Kong versus Mickie James, we've got Sara Del Rey versus Tara, and we also have the commentators confirm that AJ Styles will be in action on this Go Home show, a 3-hour special of Impact Wrestling going into the biggest pay-per-view in the history of the company. Jeff Hardy then makes his way to the ring with the Impact World Champion, saying that it's great to be back here live in front of the creatures. After what happened at Lockdown, between his dive from the rafters to take out CM Punk and then the attack from Brock Lesnar, he was in a really, really bad state, but nothing hurt him more than not being able to be here for his fans. He became the Impact World Champion. He wanted to carry the flag for this company, to represent Impact Wrestling, but that was taken away from him. However, he will return to the ring at Slammiversary, and he calls out Brock Lesnar. He knows this man very well. Many years ago, he made a victim of Jeff Hardy, but Jeff isn't that same kid anymore. He will stand here on his own 2 feet and go one-on-one with Brock Lesnar, just like he will at Slammiversary. Instead, Paul Heyman comes out, and Jeff is absolutely pissed off to see him. This is the last person he wants to see. He knows that we're going to just hear Paul Heyman flap his gums rather than him being able to get his revenge on Brock Lesnar. Paul Heyman does tell Jeff that Brock is going to make a special appearance next week, flying out early to come and speak with Jeff Hardy. Jeff kind of plays off the fact that, isn't Brock supposed to be here every week anyway? But Paul Heyman says he isn't here tonight, and these people don't deserve to see him anyway. As Paul Heyman continues to talk, Jeff tells him to shut up. Nobody cares about anything that he has to say or do. We want to see Brock Lesnar because Jeff Hardy is going to get his hands on him the next time he sees him. If that has to be next week, then so be it. But let's cut all the crap with Paul Heyman talking out of his ass for the next 10 minutes. Paul says that he can't believe what Jeff's saying, considering that the success of Impact Wrestling is all down to him. He says, look around you, look at everything on this show tonight. He put his blood, sweat and tears into making Impact Wrestling as great as it is, and he got this company Brock Lesnar. Without him, Brock Lesnar wouldn't be here, and they need to be more grateful. So Paul is just rambling on, trying to take credit for everything that's happened, not just now, but over the 2 years that he's been here. He might not even be in charge anymore, but he's still saying that he is pulling the strings. He is the puppet master, and actually, Jeff Hardy's heard enough. He kicks Paul Heyman in the gut and hits him with a twist of fate. Jeff Hardy then stands tall, so hopefully making up for the disappointment of Brock Lesnar not being here by having Paul Heyman take his first bump in the save. And again, we wanted to get Paul Heyman really trying to get boos out of the crowd so that we hopefully get a huge pop for Jeff Hardy, who we're trying to establish as this absolute mega next level babyface before he defends the title against Brock Lesnar at Slammiversary. And it kind of feels to me like the perfect way to do this is to have him lay out a non-wrestler, but one who is very, very detested, and one who, as we say, we haven't seen Paul get his comeuppance in his entire 2.5 years in the company. So obviously that's going to be something really, really good to see. Hopefully a cathartic moment. We've had him attacked off screen. I think Bobby Lashley is supposed to have punched him one week, but this is the first time that we've seen any physical damage to Paul Heyman. So hopefully that is a big moment in this absolutely massive storyline. Prior to the main event of Impact Wrestling, the final part of Kurt Angle's road trip is shown, with him pointing out that according to his sat-nav, he's pretty much at CM Punk's place. Kurt Angle then pulls up his vehicle and gets out, walking towards the door of CM Punk. However, from the garage of CM Punk, or however the setup of this building is, we somehow see a car speeding away. So Punk has got word of Kurt Angle being here, and he wants nothing to do with him. A disappointed Kurt Angle is kind of exasperated. He's done all this traveling, and then in like a 10-second period, Punk's just got the hell out of there. He says that this is exactly what this man is all about. He is so frustrated, but accepts that he's done everything he can. Looks like CM Punk is happy to hide away from his responsibilities forever, and he guesses there's nothing else he can do. He's got a lot to focus on this week. This is kind of his last stand. CM Punk has let down the boys in the locker room. He's let down all his fans around the world, and he has proved he's lived up to his name, basically. CM Punk is a pathetic punk, a worthless piece of trash, and basically this is Kurt Angle saying that he's giving up on his pursuit. Kurt Angle is then in action in our main event, which is a very, very poor, well, I say very, very poor, it's still a decent main event. Obviously, well, it wasn't really associated to the main storyline, so I can't really complain. And yeah, the stamina inconsistency of Kurt Angle. 93, I'm sure we'll see the best of Kurt Angle in whatever he does at Slammiversary, but he defeats Jay Lethal in 11 minutes and 55. I meant to put this as a submission victory. It was supposed to be the ankle lock, and then Maria's at ringside telling Jay Lethal that he absolutely must not tap out. Of course, she's not the one in the move, so she's then annoyed when Jay Lethal does tap out. It says angle slam, so it doesn't really matter too much. Kurt Angle then has his arm raised post-match, but it's clear that after the disappointment this last week, he isn't in the best of moods. He's kind of failed to deliver on that promise that he gave to go and confront CM Punk, so yeah, he's not in the best of spirits, but the commentators promote that packed go-home show to Slammiversary X. The company couldn't be in a more hot place right now, despite certain people letting us down, and we've got a huge card planned for next week. AJ Styles in action, the tag team champions against the Briscoes. We're also confirming Colt Cabana and El Generico versus the Young Bucks, Sarah Del Rey versus Tara, and Aja Kong versus Mickie James. So an absolutely stacked 3-hour episode of Impact Wrestling next week. And on top of all that show that the commentators are hyping, they also announce that the Icon Sting will return to competition, not at Slammiversary, but on next week's show. He has been tormented and tortured by Samoa Joe all year, and in the main event of the 3-hour special of Impact Wrestling, he will go one-on-one with Samoa Joe. However, as we sign off on the show, Kurt Angle is jumped from behind by somebody who has jumped the guardrail. It seems a brutal attack underway, and it quickly becomes clear that even though he wasn't willing to go face to face with Kurt Angle in his hometown, CM Punk is behind this attack. He catches the Olympic gold medalist, of course, completely off guard, laying a series of punches into the front and back of the head of Kurt Angle, and he busts open his victim. The attack is relentless. It's a wild CM Punk. We can see from his appearance, his hair and beard have grown out. He looks like he's basically been living under a bridge for the last 6 weeks. He is absolutely feral when he gets his hands on the defenseless Kurt Angle, who he locks in an anaconda vice. He looks worse for wear, as we say, having been off the radar for some time, but CM Punk is back as he chokes out Kurt Angle, the Olympic gold medalist, former Impact World Champion, record-holding Impact World Champion, is out cold. CM Punk then outstretches his arms, unzips his jacket, standing tall at the end of the show. Security and referees coming down, albeit all too late, and CM Punk is angrily asking the audience, is this what you wanted? Is this what you've been asking for? Am I who you wanted to see? CM Punk is back, and he wipes the blood of Kurt Angle down his white t-shirt as Impact Wrestling goes off the air. Again, we've not used blood too much throughout this save, and I hope it is an impactful moment when we do get to see it, because CM Punk with a bloodied t-shirt and Kurt Angle bust open being seen to by medics, I think is an excellent visual to end a good episode of Impact Wrestling. We do have Evolve Wrestling before we move into next week's show. This actually is the last Evolve Wrestling before the pay-per-view, because of course Evolve Wrestling next week will be a 1-hour pre-Slammiversary 10 pay-per-view pre-show. So final Evolve Wrestling before that special pre-show episode begins with Roderick Strong cutting a promo. He will be in action against Kenny King tonight because he's had to come down to Evolve to prove that he deserves that shot against D'Angelo De Niro. The winner of the main event will face the Pope, and he says that this show is lucky to have him here tonight. Angelina Love then defeats Daphne to qualify for the Evolve World Championship match, and it is the help and distraction of Velvet Sky at ringside. Nikki Roxx also there, but not able to have any effect. Rosita then gets her revenge on Angelina Love for the attack last week, only to be jumped by Velvet Sky. Sarita then makes a save for her cousin, and they run off the beautiful people. D'Angelo De Niro then confronts Roderick Strong about his words from earlier. Strong just doesn't care really. He's being very, very disrespectful to the champion, and matters are made worse when the Young Bucks attack D'Angelo De Niro from behind, leaving him laying in the ring. Kenny Omega then defeats Jack Evans in a decent match, a good performance from him. He is attacked after the match by Homicide and Rocky Romero. Another time that they have left Kenny Omega down on the ground. There's no D'Angelo De Niro to save him this time, and he is outnumbered by the Rottweilers. Kenny King is ready for Roderick Strong tonight. He's seen Roderick Strong going from strength to strength on Impact Wrestling, albeit often with the help of his buddies, but This is his chance to win a title shot. He's not just coming down when he senses opportunity. Kenny King has been here every week putting in the work, and he knows that that's going to pay off tonight, and it is Mischief who defeats Taylor Wilde with distraction from Daisy Hayes, allowing her to secure that victory. And what's key to note is that Taylor Wilde helped Sarita when she was getting screwed over when Mischief was trying to help Daisy Hayes qualify for that match, seemingly after being involved in that brawl earlier. Sarita doesn't come out and help Taylor Wilde, so perhaps a little bit of contention there for Taylor Wilde, who you probably would have made favourite going into this match, but she was screwed over, like I said. Mischief then stands tall. No help for Taylor Wilde when she needed it. She's joined by Daisy Hayes, and they're obviously very, very happy with the result of that match. Kenny Omega has then been able to regroup in the back, and he challenges Homicide and Rocky Romero for that Evolve Wrestling show next week. He's going to bring a partner to that show, and he is looking for revenge on the two guys who have been basically bullying him for the last couple of weeks. We then get a really good main event. You would say that Roderick Strong carries it, his 76 obviously going a long way to getting us a 73 in the main event, but it's a good sign that Kenny King can hang with these people. However, unfortunately, he is defeated by Roderick Strong in 9 minutes and 51. So it will be Roderick Strong versus D'Angelo De Niro in the main event of the Evolve Wrestling special that will be the pre-show of Slammiversary 10. D'Angelo De Niro then comes out. He lays out the Young Bucks with a steel chair as they try to continue a post-match attack on Kenny King. Strong manages to escape, but confirming that it will be D'Angelo De Niro, Roderick Strong on next Sunday's pre-show. It's a 67, which is decent enough. Never really too bothered about the ratings of Evolve Wrestling, but that is the second final week of build to Slammiversary 10. As we go into hopefully a show next week that's going to top this rating. It's a 3-hour special, and I just did that partially because it's the last episode of Impact Wrestling I'm going to book, so I kind of wanted another hour on there. In fact, I've announced that. I do actually need to check that the game will let me change it to a 3 hours, so before I get into the hype job of it, I might be making some edits to the video as I go through it when the TV network don't let me on. So we've been allowed to do the 3-hour show, so there'll be no Evolve Wrestling next Thursday, but we'll still have 3 hours of action, and it is a very, very special episode. As I said, we've put Sting in the ring there, AJ Styles will be in action, plenty of pre-booked matches, and hopefully a lot to look forward to on the go-home show to what this series has all been leading to 2.5 years in. It is Impact Wrestling Slammiversary 10. I think it's a brilliant way to end the series, to be fair. I don't think things could have come together better, not only with the final sort of story I had in mind being Brock Lesnar's arrival in the company, but the fact that it is 10 years of TNA turned into Impact Wrestling. I just think that wraps everything up nicely. As much as I'd love to continue, and I've had second thoughts of trying to port this to TEW9 and continuing, but it just seems like it'd be a big undertaking, so it's unlikely. But for those who have followed the series throughout TEW 2010, it even started on TEW 2016. That's how long this has been going. We are so close to the final stretch, and next time we will see the last week of Impact Wrestling. Rambling on a lot now, so yeah, that's all. Thank you for watching, and I'll hopefully, very hopefully, see you next time. Thank you.